Adam here from Peak Performance Digital. Today I'm going to talk about the new WordPress full site editing features. I'm going to start off by talking about what a WordPress theme actually is, what they do for us, the challenges with themes, how they've changed over time. Then we'll go into an overview of WordPress full site editing, the features, the major differences between the new way and the old way, and then how we can bridge the gap between those classic themes and the new block themes. Then lastly, we'll create a theme. So we'll create a classic theme, and then we'll create a block theme, and I'll talk about the challenges and considerations that we need to think about for both. So what exactly is a WordPress theme? At its core, it's a group of files, graphics, style sheet, code, all those things that control the overall appearance and behavior of the website. Controls the layout, the colors, typography, styling, menu locations, and a lot more. It also defines the way that pages interact with each other and the visitor. Let's take a look at this demo website. Here we have a theme applied that has a large hero graphic at the top. It has a sidebar and it has a content area. Now we can see if we come in, we can change that theme very easily to any one of these other themes. So I'll just change it to this 2020 theme. And as you can see, the look and feel of the site is completely different. The menus at the top, we no longer have that large hero graphic. We only have one column. We no longer have that sidebar, but the content itself is still the same. I generally break themes down into three types. Multi-purpose themes, they're the ones that most people use. They're things like Astra, Cadence, GeneratePress, Genesis, things that will be useful for any website and are very, very flexible. Then we have niche themes. These are much more locked down. They serve a single purpose. They have very limited customization, but they do what they need to do very, very well. And then lastly, we have custom themes. These are usually based on a common framework that let you get up and running very quickly, but are customized specifically for your website or your project. In these videos, I'm going to focus primarily on custom themes. Themes are something that we have to use inside of WordPress. Like I said, they define the way that the website looks and behaves. We like themes because they define the way that the site looks and behaves. They separate the content of the site from the design of the site, which is great because 3 years down the road, you might want to change the look and feel of the site, but you don't want to have to create all your content again. They also offer a structured way to manage that website content by creating predefined fields for things like titles, paragraph copy, lists, images, etc., so that the people putting the content in can't change the design or can't mess up anything. One of the problems with themes, though, is that the content structure is imposed by the themes, and it restricts the editor's ability to make changes to the design. Another problem is that themes were based on PHP templates. They were typically created when the site was built, and then they're only edited by developers. It makes design changes very costly and time-consuming for anything that wasn't planned in from the beginning. Now, multi-purpose themes, they did offer a bit more flexibility by incorporating theme editor-like features. They allow us to control typography, colors, menu, page layout to some limited extent, and that was a good step in the right direction. Those themes use things like the WordPress customizer, custom dashboards. Some themes use a combination of both. It really is a bit of a mess. At the same time that multi-purpose themes were gaining features around 2013 or 2014, page builders started becoming more popular for building and designing individual pages. They were really the first step towards moving away from those predefined theme layouts. As a natural progression, page builders began morphing into theme builders, where templates could be created and assigned to different parts of the website. And then in 2018, along with WordPress 5.0, the modern WordPress block editor, sometimes called Gutenberg, was released. This gave us the tools to visually edit our websites and the pieces of our web pages right through a GUI editor. Theme builders started incorporating the block editor by controlling the overall page layout while still letting you edit the content portion of the site through the WordPress block editor or Gutenberg. And now very recently, some multi-purpose themes like GeneratePress and Cadence have actually evolved to allow you to create custom layouts and components using the WordPress block editor. In January 2022, WordPress 5.9 introduced a whole new way for developers and designers to create themes without needing to use the proprietary methods introduced by multi-purpose themes. Rather than relying on custom PHP code or third-party site builders to create page templates, WordPress now allows developers and designers to use the WordPress block editor to edit or create them. You'll probably hear terms like full site editing, FSE, block themes to describe the new theme type. Officially, those new themes are called block themes, so that's what I'll try to stick with. The term full site editing, or FSE, is commonly used to refer to the whole collection of the new site editing features that were rolled out along with WordPress 5.9. So what are these new features that were introduced in WordPress 5.9? First, we've got a block-based template editor. We've got block-based widgets, a global styles interface, theme.json support, and a new menu system. The biggest thing that makes block themes different is that they're built from regular HTML templates rather than PHP files. From a user interface perspective, on pure block themes, you'll notice that the customizer, widgets, and classic menu editor are no longer used. So just to clear up some confusion, you can still use classic themes in WordPress 5.9. There's no need to use all or even any of the full site editing features. Hybrid themes are a great way to bridge that gap between the classic themes and pure block themes. And the hybrid themes, they still use one or more legacy theme components, such as the customizer or classic menu system. So first I'm going to start off by creating a very basic classic WordPress theme. And to do that, we really only need two files. So see over here, I've got Visual Studio Code open to my themes folder, and I have my WordPress website open over here on the right-hand side. I've got a few themes that are already loaded up, some of the WordPress default themes, and you can see them over here as well. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a folder for the new theme. We're going to call this theme My Classic Theme. Now, the two files that we need, one is style.css, and that tells us the theme name, some information about the theme, and also holds the styling for the pages themselves. The next file we need here is index.php, and this is one of several files that WordPress looks for when it launches the website. So here we're going to start off by creating the header portion of the HTML file. This is just standard HTML header information, except for this WP headline right there. Next, we're going to add the body, and we've got a body class function right there. It's a helper function that WordPress has that outputs a list of useful CSS classes. Next, we have the template header. We'll pop that in, and then after that comes the body of the template. Now, something I want to point out here is one of the most important features of WordPress called the loop. And it's this section right here that starts with if have posts. What it does is it figures out which page the user's on and what should be shown on that page. And it returns a list of one or more posts that the website can loop through and display the output. So we have that right here. Lastly, we're going to close out this web page by putting in the footer, including this WP footer function. Now, if we come over here to our website and we refresh the themes page, you'll see that we now have a theme here called My Classic Theme. So let's activate it, and we'll see that it's changed. We'll also see in the sidebar that things have changed as well. We've gone and changed some of the menu options from the ones that are available in the new block theme editor to the classic theme editor. So now we have a customize menu option and this theme file editor option. Those weren't there before. But let's go to the front end of the site just so you can see that wonderful, beautiful theme that we created. So here we have it. We've got a header. We've got the body, which has the loop in there, and what it's doing is looping through the blog posts that I have. And all the way down at the bottom, we've got our footer. So this is all we need for a functional WordPress theme. Of course, it doesn't look like much, and it certainly doesn't do a whole lot. So that's what we're going to tackle next. So if we look at the site, we'll notice that there's no navigation menu anywhere. So that's the next thing we'll add. And to do that, we have to start off by creating a functions.php file. And in that functions.php file, we're going to register the location for the nav menu. So we're going to create a location called primary menu. Now, we're going to refresh this page, and we're still not going to see a menu because even though we've created the location inside WordPress, we haven't told it where to put it on the page. So let's take a look here at the dashboard. You'll now see when we go under Appearance, we've got a Menus menu. And we have the different menus that are available. And we can take this menu, the All Pages menu, and we're going to assign it to that new primary menu location. So now we've assigned the menu, all pages, to the new primary menu. And next thing we have to do is tell it where on the page to render. So still we have nothing there. So to tell it on the page where to render, we're going to come over here to index.php, and right under site description, I'm just going to paste this little bit of code in here that says to put in the nav menu item, menu 1. And menu 1 is equal to our primary menu. So now we have that. And boom, we refresh the page, and here's our menu. You'll notice that it's completely unstyled. It's just a unordered list, which is the way that menus are rendered natively. And we have to use CSS to style it and make it look like something. So as you can see, this is a really basic example of a WordPress theme. We're not going to go into things like adding a sidebar or adding featured images. I will talk briefly about enqueuing styles and scripts because up until now, we put things directly in the style.css and functions.php. Those are not good practices. We want to actually tell these files to look at other places inside the theme folder for their specific things. The other thing that we haven't touched on is adding other page templates. And this is incredibly important because the index.php file that we added only shows us so much. It's just the bare bones of the website. Inside of here, there are several other templates that we definitely want to have. So things like singular.php. We're going to want a template for your archives. We're going to want one for single pages. We're going to want one for single posts, a search page, 404 page, etc., etc. The WordPress website, developer website, has a great graphic that shows you that hierarchy of page templates. So now that we've created a basic classic theme, we're going to turn our attention to creating a block theme. You'll notice a lot of these steps in the beginning are very similar. So we're going to have to create the theme folder, the style.css, and we're going to create an index.php file that's actually not going to have anything in it. Then we'll have to create two other subfolders in there. And the last thing we'll do is add this index.html inside of the block templates folder. And that just tells us that this is a block theme and not a classic theme. So let's get to it. So here we're going to start off the same way that we did when we created our classic theme. Again, we have Visual Studio Code loaded up, and we have our WordPress website loaded up with our classic theme as well as a few other demonstration themes. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to create a new folder for the block theme. That folder is just going to be my-block.theme. And again, inside of there, we need a style.css with the basic information about it, my block theme. There we go. The next thing that we need is an index.php file. So we're just going to create a blank index.php file, because if we don't, WordPress complains. Now we're going to refresh, and we see a theme here called My Block Theme. If we activate it, we get a whole lot of nothing. So what we need to do is we actually have to create a block templates folder inside of there and a block template parts folder. So let's do this. Inside of My Block Theme, we're going to create block templates. And then we're going to create block template parts. And the last thing we're going to do is inside of block templates, we're going to create an index.html file. So I want you to look very closely. Right now we have my block theme activated, but if we look here under the appearance menu, we have themes, customize, and theme file editor. So this actually does not know that it's a block theme yet. It still thinks that it's a classic theme. But as soon as we add index.html under block templates, we can refresh. Now, all of a sudden, WordPress knows that this is a block theme. We can see the customize went away as well as the file editor. It was replaced with this editor menu. We click on it, and we're now inside of the full site editing interface. Doesn't look like much though. So let's click on this W, and here we have the sidebar for the full site editor. We can now edit our site, our templates, and our template parts, all using the Gutenberg editor. So before I jump too deep into the block editor, I do want to go back to our Visual Studio Code and talk a little bit more about some of the things that we could or should be doing here. So we just created the bare bones structure of the theme itself so far. So we've got the index.html has nothing in it, our index.php, our style.css, they all have nothing in there. Just like with the classic theme, our style.css should enqueue other styles, and we should create a functions.php file in here that also enqueues other functions files. We also may want to create a file in here called theme.json. And what this does is it defines some of the colors, typography, some of the other style things that we wouldn't necessarily see inside of the interface. So by default, certain things are hidden from us typography-wise that this theme.json file can help expose. One of the first things we want to do when we're modifying the theme is to edit the default styles. So coming over here, we see this little circle icon with half black, half white. We click on it, and this brings us to our styles editor. If we haven't created a style.json file, there's not much we can do here. We can come into typography, and we can basically edit the size of the font and the size of the links and some default appearance. And that's about it. So that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm just going to make our default font size 20. We can also come in here to colors, and we have some default colors predefined. We can also add some custom colors if we want. So I'm going to add this hard pink, and we will add hard purple, and we can name them whatever we want. There we go. And now we have our two custom colors along with the default colors. WordPress 5.9 also created gradients for us, but we're not going to mess around with those. Once we have our colors defined, we can then come in here to elements, and we can set those colors as background elements, text elements, or supposedly link elements, although whenever I click on link elements, I get nothing. So I guess that's why this site editor is still considered to be beta. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to create template parts. We've got templates for our pages, and then template parts are the pieces of our pages that are reusable. So I'm going to create a template part for our header. So we'll come in here to template parts. We can see that there's none found. We'll say add new, and I'll just call this default header. Now I'm going to say this is a header area and create. And again, we're here in our familiar Gutenberg block editor. We'll click on the plus to insert a block, and I'm going to create a row. And inside that row, I'm going to create some columns. So I'll create 2 columns. In the first column, I'm going to create a site logo. And in the second column, we're going to have our navigation portion. If we look over here at the list view, we can see what's going on. So take a look at site logo. I don't have one defined yet, so I'll click on this button, open up my media library. I have uploaded this placeholder file. So that's now our site logo. Just change the size of that a tiny bit. And then over here we have our navigation. And this is the new menu editor. Not going to go into a whole lot of detail here, but this replaces the old dialog for creating and managing menus. Of all the new features in WordPress 5.9, I definitely think this new navigation feature needs the most work. It's not ready for prime time at all. But what we can do, we can select an existing menu. So these are our classic menus that were in classic themes. We can create a new menu, or we can hit add all pages. Now add all pages is going to create a page list for us based on the structure of our pages in the database. So we can't modify this or change it, but it is just an easy way to bring over all of our pages. The way I suspect WordPress wants you to do it is by saying start empty. And this is going to let us add our pages one by one. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't give us the same interface that we had previously. So we don't have a page list to choose from to add menus. We actually need to know the pages that we want to add. So let's come in here, we'll say add block. And once we say add block, we can see that it's added a link. but it doesn't really have anything in here. So let's use one of our recently updated pages, Hello World, and we can see it's added a link and the text Hello World. Let's add another one, sample page. And this is all well and good as long as the pages that you want, you either know off the top of your head or they're in the recently updated list. But if I have something else, like say for example, I'm looking for my services page, but I don't see it there. Or even something simple like homepage. I'm not seeing that either. So I can type that in and it's going to add the name of it, but I don't think it has a link for me. Yep, in the URL it's just HTTP home. So that doesn't do me much good at all. But you know, once this is done and I have all these links in here, it is pretty nice because I can modify them and reorganize them right here from the list view and right here in the block editor. So once you have the items in, it's perfectly fine. Adding the items is a little bit more challenging. The other big challenge that I see is in the layout. So we can do simple things like justify the menu different ways. We can orient it, horizontally or vertically. However, that's about the extent of the styling that we have. We don't have a whole lot of options as to how things look on mobile. We don't have much in terms of spacing or what happens when you hover over things. All of that right now still needs to be done through CSS. So I definitely think if there's anything you're going to keep from the classic theme world, the menus should probably be it right now. Now that we have a template part created for our default header, we can add it to our index template. So let's come into the index template and we'll say plus. And if we start typing templates, we'll see we have template part down here. So template part are just generic template parts, but we also have our header template parts and our footer template parts. So let's click on header. And we can either create a new header or we can choose existing. So I'm going to say choose existing. And this is the default header that we created. And there we go. So now no matter where we are, if we edit this default header template part, it'll get updated everywhere else. Or we can go over to our template parts section and modify it there so that it gets edited everywhere. And that's really what WordPress means when they talk about full site editing, is that everything that we're doing now is through Gutenberg. And it all makes sense once you understand how Gutenberg is meant to work. So for example, here we have our default header. We can see that it's inside of this default header part that's inside of our index template. So if we're modifying anything here, even if we're modifying this menu that's part of the default header, it's going to change no matter where we have referenced default header. So now we're going to make this index template behave a little bit more like we did in the classic template that we created. So we'll come over and we'll add a new block. And we'll use the query loop block. So I'm going to select one of these predefined templates that they have here. We'll just choose the grid template. And if we look over here at our list view, we can see that it's added a query loop. And inside of there is a post template that has a group that contains our title, our excerpt, and our date. And it's gone through and it's queried all of our posts and gotten all the information and displays it. So this is a whole lot easier than trying to remember and create the PHP to do all of this. Everything's done through our standard block components. If we look at the block components that we have, we've got a lot more in the theme than we ever did before. So we can add all sorts of things in here. The excerpts, titles, featured images, dates, authors, contents, categories, all this stuff that we can use to visually create these loop components that we never had the ability to do before using the block editor. And now we're going to go to the front end of our website and just see what we have. And there we have it. We have our header that has our logo. It has our navigation menu, and there we have our loop. Now, the interesting part is if we click any of these, we don't have a template to display it properly. So let's see what happens. I click on Hello World, and again, it's just going to show me the same thing because we only have the one template that shows header and the loop. So we need to create more templates that can do things like handle single posts, single pages, search results, 404 pages, all of those things. So that's what we'll tackle next. If you remember back to when we first started creating this theme, we created this index.html file manually in the file system. And that's what enabled us to start using the full site editing features. Now that we have that, we can come in here to the editor, to the templates section, and say add new. This lets us create all new sorts of templates. So we have things like front page templates, and this is the template that's going to display on the home page of your site, whether it's a post site or a page. We've got a page template, archive templates, search template, and a 404 template. So let's go ahead and we will create a default page template. We're going to make this very simple. We're going to add a block for our header. We're going to choose our existing header. We're going to say post title, post content, and that's all. So we've got our header, our post title, and our post content. And just so that we can differentiate it, I'm going to just add in I want to make this post title. We're going to make it red. So we'll save that and publish it. And now I'll refresh our homepage. And let's click on the Hello World. This is a post. So we click on Hello World, and we see that it's gone to that URL, but look, it's still using our index.html template for some reason. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because the template that we created says page. So let's open up sample page, which we know is a page type. And there we have it. It's opened up with our page template. It has our red title, and it has the body content for that page, as well as our header that we created. So that's great for our pages, but what about our posts that still aren't opening? Well, for that, we're back to the file system. So if we come back here, My Block Theme, under Block Templates, we've got our index.html file. We're also going to need to create one for our posts. So let's take a look again at the WordPress hierarchy. So index.php is the main index template. And all these that right now that are listed as PHP, they work just as well as HTML, only the locations have changed. So we've created a page.html that renders our pages, but we need to create one for posts. So what does our posts? Well, we could do it one of two ways. We can create a singular.html that would handle any page or any post if page.html didn't exist. Or, since we already have this, let's just create a single.html file and take it from there. So we'll just come right in here and create a single.html. And when we come back to our templates, we see that it's already here in our template list. We also see a few other interesting things. So the page template that we created using the WordPress editor has my author's name in there and the author's avatar. This index template has this little icon. Same thing with the single post template. And it's also really interesting that I named it single. However, WordPress is smart enough to know that single.html is our single post template. And they've renamed this accordingly. Something else you want to look at here is the little dot. This little dot on top of the icon says that the template has been customized from what exists in the file system. So those are just some interesting things to notice. So let's go into our single post and we'll create the template for that. So just like the last time, we'll start off with the header. We'll use our existing header. I'll do post title. And this time I'll make it blue. And then we'll add post content. We'll save and publish. And while that's saving, I will refresh our page. And now we see my Hello World now has a template to render. So it's Hello World post is rendering here using that single.html. with the blue title and the body text. We'll come back to the home page. And all of these things that have been created, all of our posts here, should now render using that same post template. And there we have it. So last but not least, we're going to create a front page template. So we'll come back here to templates. And I'm going to create a front page template for the home page that works regardless of whether I'm showing posts or a static page as my front page. So for this, I'm going to just have my site logo. I'm going to make that really big because honestly, your logo can never be big enough. And then below that, I'm going to add my navigation. I'm going to select navigation 8, which is the one that we had before. We'll center that. And below it, I'm going to do something like, I don't know, something silly. So now this front page template is what's going to render. And we'll center this. Save that. So now this front page template is what's going to render every time someone goes to the home page of this site. So let's come over here and we'll click on home. And there we have it. I've got my giant logo. I've got my menu and welcome to my awesome site. But this doesn't show us anything. So let's just change this a tiny bit. So let's change this just a tiny bit. I'm going to add a post content section here so that anything that's in my home page actually gets displayed underneath all this loveliness. So now we'll come back here, we'll refresh, and there we have it. Our front page right now says this is a sticky post. There are a few things to verify, yada, 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 yada. Okay. So now we have a few templates that get us what we need. We still have to do things like creating search templates, 404 templates, archive templates, but this is really the basis of it. Anything that doesn't exist here, you would have to create manually through the file system, and this graphic is a great one to reference. Personally, when I create a template, I'll do a index template, archive, single, page, a home template, 404, and search. I typically do not bother with a singular template, although it wouldn't hurt to do that as well. I also tend to create template parts for things like header, footer, hero, and sometimes even for menus. Now there's one other thing that ties all this together that I want to demonstrate for you. You've done all this work either on a staging site or on a local site or someplace, but how do you actually get this to your client since it's all in the database? Creating a traditional theme, you would just zip up the files and install them, but you can't do that here. Well, luckily WordPress has given us a good way to do that. So we can come into any of our templates that we've made, whether they were first created through the file system or whether they were done right here through the full site editor. Click on the three dots for more tools and options. And over here, we can hit export. This is going to export everything into a zip file. It says theme. We've got our parts. So our default header part and our post hero part and our templates. These are all the ones that we created. And they have all the HTML in them that we need. Let's do view source. There we go. We can see that it's got the HTML that was created based on the block editor. So all we need to do to be able to transfer this is take these files and make them part of our theme folder that we've already started creating. So we can reveal that in Explorer. And we can take these parts and pop them into my block template parts directory. And we can take our templates, Pop them into the templates directory. And now this has this folder, my block theme folder, has all the things that we need to pick up our theme and move it from place to place. So let's take a look. Index.html. This has the block HTML in it. Front page, page, single. And our parts have all the things that we need. So you should be aware that everything we did here was for demonstration purposes. We didn't follow any best practices. We certainly don't have a complete theme, and there's a lot more that goes into it. But I do hope that this gives you a good sense for what it takes to get started creating themes, either the traditional way, the classic way, or with the block theme editor.